We're going to stop. Hello, everybody. On behalf of Chris's family, I'd like to welcome you all here to the Mitre in Rondebosch. And thank you all for coming here today to commemorate his life. I'm not going to start until everybody's in. We've got an extra space on the other side there at the Woodlands, where there is a big screen, and also the sound is going over to that side. So we'll just wait 5 minutes or so if you can hang in there with us. If anybody needs to rush off and grab a beer, they can, but just beware your seat may not be there when you come back. How's that? Is that better? On here? No, I'm fine. Can everybody hear me at the back there? Okay. So once again, on behalf of Chris's family, we welcome you here to the Mitre, and thank you for joining us today to commemorate Chris's life. The son of the late Alan and Molly McCallum, husband to Corin, brother to Arabella and Rob, father to James and Gemma and their partners Megs and Meg, and grandparent to Rafi. It was this circle that he loved so dearly, to which he devoted his time and energy, a family man through and through. With that glint in his eye and the ever-ready Colgate smile, Chris brought wit, fun, and enthusiasm into the lives of all he touched. And at this impossibly sad time, when we try and find ways to understand and accept, he would want us to celebrate the life that he lived. And we remember Chris as that person we loved, with his exuberant personality, his brilliant intellect, and his unconditional love of family and support of his friends. I'm sure everybody here would agree it was an honor to know him and to be in his presence. I know some friends who say that if they ever had to be in a barroom brawl, they'd want Chris by their side. And though he was tough externally, inside he was a Christmas beetle. He was soft and vulnerable. Where most people build films to protect themselves from the world, Chris was porous, absorbing all without safety guards, without filters, just with kindness, generosity, and gentleness. He possessed a naive, boyish charm that never failed to draw people to him, and none would know better than his beloved family who he adored. There was never any doubt where his priorities lay. To Corin, his childhood sweetheart, James, the man in the suit Superman, to Gemma, his mischievous and beloved daughter. James, I hope you're ready for this, and James, Chris's son, is going to come up and pay tribute to his father.
Thanks. I would like to start by saying a huge thank you to everyone for the outpouring of love and help towards our family through this unbelievably difficult time. I cannot begin to explain how much it all means to us. There is never a right time for death. It doesn't wait for our readiness, our plans, or our goodbyes. It arrives when it does, quietly, suddenly, or sometimes after a long and weary road. And because of that, we are left with a choice. We can dwell on the moment of loss, or we can turn our attention to the life that came before it. And today we choose to remember the life that my dad lived. How does one condense someone's life into a short speech, especially someone who meant so much to you and has had the most profound and positive impact on your life? It's simply not possible, as words sometimes are not enough to describe meaning and emotion, but I'll do the best I can to get across just how much my dad meant to our family. My dad is the most incredible human being. He lived his life with generosity, love, and enthusiasm that touched everyone around him. He had a way of making people feel seen, valued, and cared for. Whether you're a family member, a friend, or even someone he had just met. He was someone who always put everyone else first, and nothing was too much to ask if it meant helping someone out. An example of this was when my mom once had a bad case of the hiccups and said to my dad jokingly, "Please, can you give me a fright just to try get rid of them?" Being the man he was, he wanted to help out in the best way possible. So while my mom was in the bath, he jumped over the courtyard door wearing a balaclava and knocked on the bathroom window. Needless to say, my mom's hiccups were cured, but he slept on the couch that night. I've been so lucky to have made such incredible memories with my dad. Doing the Cape Epic back in 2013, which I'm sure we told most of you about already, and that it was the hardest one by far, apparently. Playing the old boy sevens rugby with him, where I'm sure it was a world record for the oldest front row with a combined age of over 100. To traveling the world with him while racing, while I raced and pursued a career in triathlon, where he knew every competitor and start list well before I did, and then would often say to me, "Check boy, there's so-and-so," and then stare them down as they walk towards us. As we know, he was quite competitive. Before every race, he would tap me on the shoulder and just say, "I'm with you." Which brought me great calm and comfort pre-race in the chaos. And I feel standing up here today, as I make my way through life, that presence will never leave me and always be there. I literally could go on for hours of all the great times, and I'm very grateful that I can actually say that. My dad meant everything to me, and was my role model and best friend. If I can be half the man he was to us, I'll be a very happy person. Sorry, do you have a tissue, Meg? I shouldn't have turned that down earlier. Gemma, Dad was so proud of you and the woman you have become. He loved your sense of humor, quick and quick-witted comments, even slightly inappropriate. I'm so glad he got the chance to see you become a mother, and I know how much that meant to him. You guys shared such a unique and special father-daughter bond, and if I ever had a daughter, I would do anything to build that special relationship that you and Dad shared. Mom, you really are the strongest person I know. Through everything we've been through, you've been the heart and soul of our family, the rock we lean on. I honestly can't say enough about how thankful Gemma and I are for you. We love you so much, and I truly hope you know how proud we are to have you as our mom. The love you and Dad shared built our family, and it's something that will stay with us forever. We spend so much of our lives finding joy in things that are tangible, things we can count, measure, and keep. It's human nature to find comfort in what is tangible, in what feels certain and solid. Memories, however, are intangible, but they are not fragile. Though you can't touch a memory or see it with your eyes, its presence is eternal, hardwired into our minds. These moments are not bound by time or physical space, but live on in our hearts and minds, reminding us that the greatest treasures are not things we hold, but the love we feel. So, while we cannot physically see my dad or give him a hug, we hold on to something greater, his presence that lingers in memory and in spirit. In the quiet corners of our lives where love does not fade, the memories of my dad are ever present, echoed in the warmth of his smile that I still see in my mind. It is through these memories that I know my bond and love for my dad will never die. It simply finds new ways to live within me. And in that way, what cannot be touched is in truth what never leaves us. Our collective memories with my dad are everlasting and will always be there. Dad, your love and enthusiasm for us as a family was absolutely incredible. To him, we were everything. And honestly, I can't even put that into words, how much that means to us. I'll do everything I can to live my life through the values which you taught me and continue your legacy. I'll always love you.
I have a letter written to Chris from his daughter Gemma that I will now read out. My lovey Dad, no amounts of words will ever capture just how special and incredible our relationship was. What we had was so rare. Our humor and banter was always perfectly in sync, and one of the most favorite things about us. Gosh, we could make each other laugh. We got each other in a way that no one else could. The laughs, the memories we have shared will never ever leave me. That's what also makes us that much harder. But I know that in time I will be able to look back and share stories about us with my family, with less pain and more happiness. You were our rock, the heartbeat of our family. You were the kindest, most selfless person with the biggest heart. To say that you were loved and admired by so many would be an understatement. Everything felt steadier and brighter because of you. The world will never be the same, but I believe your spirit will live through us, and we will embrace it and live to the fullest. Every time I have Rafi lying on my chest, I'll think of you singing Two Little Boys to me, while I lay on yours as a little girl. The part of the song where it says, "There's space on my horse for two," has never been truer. We have always had each other's backs, and I know that even though you're no longer physically here, that will never change. Thank you for showing me what family truly means, and it is everything. We will hold on to each other over this time, and we will get through it. Even though I know the hole you've left behind will never go away, it's far too big. Thank you for giving me a life filled with love, laughter, and a sense of belonging that so many people spend a lifetime searching for. I'm so grateful for every moment I got to be your daughter, and as we would always say, best friend. I used to say I hoped there was no such thing as reincarnation, because I would choose this life, this family, and you as my dad over and over again, and I still feel this way. What you have given us and installed in us as a family is something I will forever be grateful for, and I promise to carry it forward. We will miss you, your bright, contagious smile, the twinkle in your eyes, and the way you lit up every room you walked into every single day. I love you always, Dad. Forever your Jam Jam. Chris's older brother, Rob, who left Cape Town for the USA 27 years ago, has traveled from New York to be with us today, and he will fill us in about the legendary McCallum clan.
Wow. Many of you, I can't recognize your faces, but I'm sure I look forward to meeting you again, Chris's friends. Yes, it is a time to also begin to celebrate his life. I was 8 years older than Chris. So I saw him come into the world, and we're quite lucky that he spent his time with us and not somewhere else. Soon after he was born, the next door neighbor's monkey escaped, and we couldn't find it anywhere, and eventually we found the monkey at the foot of the crib, about to pick up Chris and take off with him. I suppose those are things that happen in Africa. Our parents also were not helicopter parents. And so I, being the eldest, was the babysitter for Chris. I had to play with him. I had to read him stories at night until he fell asleep. If I refused to, I would hear my mother shout, "Robert! Read him another story." I would like to think this had something to do with his academic prowess. It certainly did not help my academic career, as I could never finish my homework. He was a headstrong kid, as we know, and I think that played into him being such an excellent rugby player. My way of babysitting, too, was not always the best. And these are stories that, as a family, whenever we're together, they seem to come over and over and over again. But the one time was as I said, he was a pretty headstrong kid, and having to babysit him all the time, I couldn't take it at one stage. And there was this small box there, and I picked him up and I put him in the box with his head sticking out and his arms in his side. And that way I could spend time with Arabella and carry on what I was doing. But he got me back a few years later when he took on a very different strategy. I was playing with my Skay Electrics racing car set, and he kept on deliberately knocking the cars off the track. I decided that this was much too much and chased after him. He ran into the outside shed. I had him this time, I thought. He was about 6 years old. Little did I know, as I came through the door, he was ready and he hit me over the head with a spade. That was Christopher. Like all siblings, we had our fights. But as siblings, we grew up being very, very close and always very protective of one another. I'm sure everyone gathered here today to celebrate Chris's life have so many of these stories. And we as a family, it's truly amazing how when we are together as an extended family, these stories are continually told. But we cannot talk about Chris without talking about rugby. When he was in primary school at Bishop's, it was at the time when the brothers Roy and Ian McCallum, was he our cousin? Was he our brother? Who were the Springbok rugby players. He was so proud of that at school he was going around saying that he was related to them. Pops, our grandpa, got concerned about this and wrote to Ian McCallum, who wrote a beautiful letter to Chris to say that we must be related somehow as we have the same name. But now you can say we are really good friends. Years later, of course, Roy was his rugby coach at UCT Firsts. Our father, Alan, was a pretty good rugby player. The only problem was that he was too short to get a chance at being a Springbok. Dad attributed Chris's shortness as to his limitations in senior provincial rugby. But the story does not end there. Dad's local club, the Villagers, in 1957-58 had 7 Springboks in that side that year. We always argue who was the biggest Springbok in the history of the game. But the smallest Springbok to ever play, without a doubt, and he was a Bishop's boy, was Tommy Gentles, who played for Villagers with Dad. Gentles, like Chris, was a gutsy player with a huge heart. An act of kindness, Gentles gave Dad the jersey he played in the 1955 series against the British Lions. Dad passed this jersey on to Chris and I, and we've shared it ever since. Actually, he gave it to me first. Chris stole it, and I managed to get it back. But it's, in the family, it became a kind of a blankie. And in those days, you couldn't just go out and get a Springbok jersey. Well, I have it here. Tommy Gentles. And I'm sure it's pure cotton. So this, let's see, where was it? So I have it here, and we call it our rugby blankie. And I'm passing this on to James and to Gemma and to Lebo and the others in the family, that just to continue that sense of identity of your brother. I mean, your father and our dad. Chris was a great leader, achiever in everything he ventured into. From his horse riding, academics, rugby, head of Ogilvy House at Bishop's, always humble, with the ever-present sense of humor, disarming in his interactions with all manner of people. He was a role model to so many, including myself. His achievements were many, as we've already said. And to me, to Arabella, and to Gigina, he was the best, kindest, loving brother we could have had. Chris carried out McCallum's Scottish heritage and family heritage identity with pride. I don't know how many of you may have heard of that, but he was quite proud to also have that heritage. On the McCallum crest, it reads, in ardua tendit, translated, he has attempted difficult things. And I think Chris, we can say, did that very successfully. Chris, like my son, Lebohang, and James, all have the McCallum family crest tattooed on their person, except Gemma and myself. We're going to have to do that. I will be joining that tradition shortly. Oh, yes, there we go. Carl Jung talks about the collective unconscious, the idea that the deepest unconscious mind is genetically inherited. In other words, that we're born with these archetypes and not only shaped by a personal experience. Chris brought this genetic inheritance forward in the family name, the idea of the archetype of the clan and as the laird of the McCallum legacy. McCallum, even although I was the oldest, and Corin's home is always will be, and Corin's home is and always will be the McCallum's clan's home base. For me, it is home away from home. This is testament to Chris's love of his family, who always came first. Our family regularly refer to one line in a Robbie Burns poem, which our uncles and father always pronounced at family gatherings to remind us of our Scottish identity. "'Tis a broad bricht, moonlicht nicht de nicht." It is a broad, bright moonlight night tonight. And as we wish Chris farewell on his journey, we move forward with so many wonderful memories. "'Tis a broad bricht, moonlicht nicht de nicht." And to all us gathered here today, family and friends, the McCallums and Chris, if he was with us now, would like to give you a Scottish blessing by saying, "Lang may your lamp reek, long may your chimney smoke." Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for that, Rob. So Chris, a student of Bishop's School and University of Cape Town, he graduated in the 80s with a BA LLB. At school and at university, he would want you to know that he was an excellent rugby player, as Rob was saying, playing hooker for Bishop's first and then UCT and Western Province under 20A, and later the UCT first team. I had to make sure not to leave out any teams in that sentence. But it is also common cause that Chris deftly managed to avoid the grasp of Magnus Milan and avoided his National Army service. This would have repercussions for him later when friends of his young son James would dress up in their father's army uniforms. Asked by James where his soldier's outfit was, Chris reacted quickly, explaining that instead of being a soldier, he was a cowboy, and he promptly came out dressed in his boots and chaps and cowboy hat. So authentic was he that Corin considered renting him out as a cowboy for children's parties. Anyway, he started his working life as a junior attorney with Silver Bowers, and I think it was there that the senior partners gave him the nickname Shetland, due to his stature and most intriguing hairstyle that sort of growed down the back of his head. It was one of many nicknames. I would only later learn what he was affectionately called by his father, Alan, but I'll come to that later. Anyway, Chris fitted, awkwardly, I must say, into the stereotype of a hotshot and up-and-coming lawyer. His dress sense sometimes more reminiscent of Peter Falk's detective character in the crime series Columbo. His complete disregard for things material is illustrated by a story about a swish cocktail party attended by Cape Town's finest. One of the practice's senior partners came over to Chris and asked, "So Chrissy, what sort of wheels are you driving these days?" And Chris replied deadpan, "A bucky." And the partner laughed, like, "No, really, you mean one of those latest 4x4 things?" And Chris said, "No, a 1400 Ford Bantam bucky." A friend and colleague of Chris's, Guy Elliott, will now tell us a little bit more about Chris, the promising young attorney.
Thanks, Pete. Hello, everyone. We all know about Chris's prowess as a rugby player, but Chris and I were rivals on the rugby field at school, in junior school. And I think Chris played on the wing at some stage. And frankly, we didn't have a problem with Chris on the wing. We had a problem with the other wing, whose name was Patrick Stevens, and not Chris. Chris often said that he made up for his lack of pace with a devastating sidestep, which I don't remember, seeing. It was while we were studying law together at UCT that we became inseparable mates. Chris was so positive and enthusiastic about everything he did. We had so much fun, even though we were under pressure most of the time. I used to go up to his house, Molly's house, 19 Van Reenen Street, and we'd study together most of the time, but other times we would be hatching plans for some social engagements coming up over that weekend. His infectious love of life, his intellect. It was during this time at varsity that I got to know the man so well. After we went our different ways after university, Pete referred to it, but I always have held Chris in the highest admiration for how he managed to dodge national service. Well, he did an LLM after the LLB in London, which you can understand, but the amazing feat was he somehow managed to stay out of the clutches of the SADF while he was doing his articles by spinning a yarn that his attendance as an article clerk in a long-running trial was critical to its success. Only Chris could have spun that yarn. So he managed to dodge national service. Well, some of us didn't, and I must say that while I was stuck in national service, I used to get regular letters from Corin and Chris, which used to cheer me up and keep me smiling. We reconnected, Chris and I, on my return from Johannesburg in about 1998. And whenever I had coffee or breakfast with Chris, his piercing eyes would light up with delight, and he would give me the latest news about Gemma, James, and Corin. He would regularly refer to Corin as Yellowhead. He clearly loved you all so much. And I know that he was particularly delighted with Miguel and Megan becoming part of the family, and of course, little Ruffy, who I met on Friday. I've struggled to find the words that do justice to Chris's life, but it is in times like these that we find solace in the works of great poets who have the gift to impart how we feel at this desperately sad time, and how through the passage of time we might feel. And I fell upon a beautiful poem by the American poet Maya Angelou, and it's called When Great Trees Fall. When great trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder. Lions hunker down in tall grasses, and even elephants lumber after safety. When great trees fall in forests, small things recoil into silence, their senses eroded beyond fear. When great souls die, the air around us becomes light, rare, sterile. We breathe briefly. Our eyes briefly see with a hurtful clarity. Our memory suddenly sharpened, examines, gnaws on kind words unsaid, promised walks never taken. Great souls die, and our reality, bound to them, takes leave of us. Our souls, dependent upon their nurture, now shrink, wizened. Our minds, formed and informed by their radiance, fall away. We are not so much maddened as reduced to the unutterable ignorance of dark, cold caves. And when great souls die, after a period, peace blooms. Slowly and always irregularly. Space is full with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses restored, never to be the same, whispered to us. They existed. They existed. We can be and be better, for they existed. Cheers, Maccas. Till we meet again next time.
Thanks so much, Guy. So continuing the story, Chris and Karen were married at the parish church in Constantia. He'd first set his eyes on her at horse riding when he was a 9-year-old. While chatting to Chris's brother Rob the other day, he mentioned that his father Alan was not duly impressed by Chris's interest in horses, that rugby was the sport a manly man should play. So with this paternal opposition in mind, it seems to me that a blonde-haired bombshell was a key factor in maintaining Chris's equestrian interest. Chris and Karen fittingly rode a horse and carriage from the church to the reception in Croft Road, Constantia, where they've lived ever since. So then in 2000, Chris bravely branched out from a traditional legal career into specialized insurance services with Momentum, after which he became a founder member of Zest Life in 2009. And what a success he made of that. I would like to ask Ralph Richardson, a longtime friend of his and partner in the business, to say a few words.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to read this. Chris, Chrissy, Mac, Macco, Big Mac. These are just some of the affectionate nicknames that many of his colleagues gave to him, which I think to some extent shows the huge love that everyone had, that worked with Chris, that everyone had for Chris, that worked with him. I still clearly remember the very first time I met Chris back in 1997 at the Southern Life offices in Newlands, where he was doing some consulting work for us and was still a partner of Silverbars at that time. Chris made an immediate impact on me with his friendly smile, his ease of dealing with people, his confidence, his humor, and his obvious brilliance in his legal profession. I thought immediately that it would be great to work a lot with this chap. And within a couple of years, he agreed to join us at Momentum, and we worked closely together for the next 26 years. Chris worked with us at Momentum both in his legal capacity but also in the development and implementation of new products and ideas. In 2008, Chris, together with our 4 other directors, formed the Zest Life business as a startup and grew it over the next 16 years, having recently sold it to our long-time partner company and friends at Guardrisk. Chris was an amazing business partner. His work ethic was exceptional, never shying away from the simplest, almost complex challenge. His legal knowledge was immense, but more importantly, Chris had the ability to interpret the law in a way that made sense for all of us, and also in a way that allowed us to achieve our business objectives. I think that it was a fine skill, and I don't think many people have that skill. His memory was amazing, often reminding me of a meeting or conversation we had had with clients many years ago, remembering even what was discussed without even referring to any notes that he had made. He was also very creative, always thinking about new ideas which we could use to improve or grow the business. But probably his best characteristic was the way that he dealt with work colleagues, our clients, and our business partners in such an empathetic way, always wanting to please, making everyone feel comfortable, never confrontational, always finding solutions, and this we will miss him for terribly. What also made working with Chris such fun was his recounting of the stories about his many other interests, which usually happened on a Monday morning, always with a touch of humor. From discussing the nuances of the referee's decision in a recent big rugby match, to hearing about his latest exploits on the bike, on the road, in the mountain, many of which we've touched on today already, but he was a real man's man, really, Chris. But all of these paled into insignificance when he spoke about his family, who he absolutely adored. Of Karen and his stories about the development of their homes in France, or the many walks and runs that they did together, Chris no doubt struggling to keep up. His absolute love of Karen was so evident. Of James, who he was so proud of all his achievements in life, from his school days to competing professionally as a triathlete and now growing his business in that field. Of Megan, James's wife, who joined the Zest Life business about 4 years ago, and who Chris had been mentoring since then. And she's doing amazing work, and Chris was so proud of her. Of Gemma, who Chris adored and was so proud of her achievements in her psychology profession, and that she's now doing remedial education with young children at Bishop's, no less. And of Miguel, Gemma's husband, who recently landed an awesome job and together with Gemma have a beautiful young baby of 6 weeks. These stories always reminded me of how much Chris loved his family and was so proud of everything they are and do. And so, to Chris, Chrissy, Mac, Macco, Big Mac, all your colleagues and friends are so grateful for everything you gave to us over the many years. We will miss you terribly, my good friend and colleague. May you rest in peace. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Ralph. The one thing of which this family was certain was they wanted this event to be joyous, an opportunity to reflect casually on one's relationship with Chris, to chat and commune and commemorate the life he lived. I hope you will all stay and have a beer afterwards and share your special memories of Chris McCallum, because there are so many warm stories and memories. My son in New Zealand reminded me of one. The day Chris returned to Croft Road with a teacup pig, insisting to Karen it was a legitimate breed that's guaranteed to stay small. We all know how Jasmine, aka Piggy, turned out. Actually, one could be forgiven for thinking perhaps Chris and Karen were farmers at the Croft Road compound, because there were pigs, dogs, cats, ducks, chickens, frogs. I think they even created pets of wild mice. I want to conclude with a reference to Chris's consummate storytelling ability. I'm sure everyone here has a recollection of one of his stories. He always told them so simply and authentically. He would take an everyday anecdote of life and paint it in the most open and interesting way. I recall once a story that is special to me, and so poignant that it has remained etched in this fading memory of mine. He told me about a time he shared a hotel room in America with his father, Alan. Chris was probably mid-40s and his dad well into his 70s. Sharing a hotel room with your father at that age is not an everyday experience. That night, after they'd enjoyed a sumptuous meal, some beers, no doubt speaking about rugby, they returned to their room, undressed, and got into their single, respective beds. They sat in bed and chatted for a while, and after a while, Alan lay down and closed his eyes. Chris flicked off the light in the room and lay in silence in the darkness for a while, listening to his father's breathing and reflecting on the events of the day. Then in the darkness, Chris heard his father sigh and whisper to him, "Good night, Butchie." Good night, Butchie. And this is what I say to Chris now. Good night, Butchie, until we see you again. And we, this community, promise that we will hold you and your memories in our hearts, and we'll reach out so that the collective love and friendship you show to all of us, we will bestow on your loved ones. So anyway, I didn't want to end on something sad. So perhaps I can allow Chris to cheer us up. Just as in the many parties Chris and Karen threw for us at Croft Road, if he were here now, he would lunge for the microphone, and regardless of what time of the year it was, he would declare, "The season is now open." So the family would like to thank all of those that have stepped forward at this time to help and support. There are so many, too many to name individually. Thank you to all of you here so very much for attending or watching this tribute to a remarkable man. We will play out with Chris's favorite song, The Gambler by Kenny Rogers, as we leave the Mitre and mingle in his memory. Thank you so very much.
Warm summer's evening on a train bound for nowhere. We met up with a gambler. We were both too tired to sleep, so we took turns of staring out the window at the darkness. The boredom overtook us, and he began to speak. He said, "Son, I've made a life out of reading people's faces, knowing what the cards were by the way they held their eyes. So if you don't mind me saying, I can see you're out of aces. For a taste of your whiskey, I'll give you some advice." So I handed him my bottle, and he drank down my last swallow. Then he bought a cigarette and asked me for a light. And the night got deathly quiet, and his face lost all expression. Said, "If you're gonna play the game, boy, you gotta learn to play it right. You got to know when to hold up, know when to fold up, know when to walk away, know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done." Every gambler knows the secret to surviving is knowing what to throw away, knowing what to keep. Cause every hand's a winner, and every hand's a loser. And the best that you can hope for is to die in your sleep. And when he finished speaking, he turned back toward the window, crushed out his cigarette, faded off to sleep. And somewhere in the darkness, the gambler, he broke even. But in his final words, I found an ace that I could keep. You got to know when to hold up, know when to fold up, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. You got to know when to hold, when to hold, know when to fold up, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. You got to know when to hold up,